Did any of you grow up with odd frugal habits just to save money? Hey everyone, Joan here and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm gonna share with you some odd frugal Filipino habits that I grew up with just to save money. And some of them I really found very strange, very weird when I was growing up, but now that I'm an adult, I realized that, hey, they kind of make sense. The first odd frugal Filipino habit I grew up with was something called the tabo. Basically, I didn't grow up buying toilet paper. We had this little water pail that we call tabo, and what we would do is we go to the toilet, and when we're done, instead of using toilet paper, we actually had a little water pail that we would fill up, and we would just wash our bottoms down with a pail of water. Somehow, we had figured out a technique where the water doesn't splash everywhere, but that was what we used. Looking back, yes, I find this very strange. Is it something I would do now? No. I have the luxury of buying toilet paper, so I am good with that. Was it more sanitary? I don't know. I have not done this ever since I was young, so I can't tell you. So that was what we did. We used the tabo instead of toilet paper. The next odd frugal Filipino habit I grew up with was saving every and any plastic bag that we collected from grocery shopping. I remember growing up and seeing piles of plastic bags inside our storage closets. I mean, at one point it was just overflowing with plastic bags, but my family saved all these plastic bags to reuse them as trash can liners. And that definitely saved us some money of not having to buy trash bags at the store. When I was a kid, I definitely found that kind of odd, and I always wondered, is it all going to get used up? It just seems like we just keep adding more and more, but I did see them getting used. I definitely had used some myself. Now that I'm an adult, I do have to admit, I save some of my plastic bags. I live in Arizona where they still give out plastic bags, and I use reusable shopping bags as often as I can remember to bring them into my car, but there are a handful of times that I forget, and so when I go to a store like Winco or Target and I forget my shopping bag, I do snag a couple of plastic bags with my groceries and items, and I save them, and I do reuse them as trash can liners, especially for my trash cans in my 2 bathrooms. And I honestly have not bought any trash can liners for my little trash bins. That does save me money. I only buy trash bags just for my bigger trash can for the kitchen, but other than that, I don't buy trash bags for my bathroom. And I try my best not to hoard too many. I think I usually have about 10 of them stored away at a time, so I try not to go overboard, and I make sure every single trash bag is reused again. The next odd frugal habit I grew up with is reusing cooking oil. In my culture, we love to pan fry food, deep fry food. Just a lot of our foods are very greasy, and I grew up reusing oil over and over again until it's just at that point before it got rancid and we threw it away. So for example, my dad would make breakfast and pan fry some eggs and bacon, and once he was done cooking, he would save up that oil in a big glass jar, and then the next day he would use that again for breakfast, and he would keep using that until it wasn't usable anymore. Anytime my parents did any kind of deep frying food, they always saved that oil for another time. They did try to keep organized. We would have 1 jar for meats only, we have 1 jar for frying fish only, we had 1 jar for any kind of vegetable cooking, but we always reused oil. But did it save us money saving oil? Well, in their eyes, they did. They weren't always buying oil, but now that I'm an adult, I do eat a lot healthier. I don't do any kind of deep frying really. I barely use oil for my cooking, so this is something I just would not do now or ever. So the next odd frugal Filipino habit that I grew up with was watering down our dish soap. Now what I mean by that is we would literally grab a clean bowl, usually a plastic Tupperware, put enough soap in here, fill it up with water, and this would be the soap you would use for the whole day. And what we would do is we would dip our sponge in there, wash our dishes, dip it back in there if we need more. And that was how we washed dishes. And a lot of times there was enough for the next round of dishes, for lunch, and then for dinner. And we would just put the sponge back in. And that was how we saved money on dish soap. We had this idea that if we water down our dish soap, we're not buying dish soap that often. Now, does it actually work? I haven't tested it as an adult. I always just put a little bit of soap on here when I wash the dishes, and I would just keep doing that until I was done. I haven't tested this thing. I always thought it was kind of gross when I was growing up, because then you would see little like food chunks in there. The idea of saving money on dish soap was definitely why we did this, but as an adult, I don't think it's something I care to do. I think buying dish soap is not really a big deal for me. I don't think it's that expensive. Now let me know in the comments below if this is something that you've ever done, and if you think it actually saves you money. Let me know what you think of this. The next frugal habit that I grew up with may not seem as odd. I mean, it kind of depends on your culture, I don't know. But anytime we attended a big Filipino party, there's a ton of food. There's so much food that at the end of the party, we were always encouraged to take food home. And depending on which relative you go to, a lot of times you would just pile leftovers on different plates, wrap it up with foil, take it home. Some relatives actually provide takeaway boxes for you. So anytime my family attended one of these parties, we always took home a lot of food. And it wasn't like we were the only ones who do it. All my other relatives did it. So it was just normal for us, but maybe odd for other people. But we would bring home enough food that we would have food for the next several days, maybe even up to a week. That was how much food we were encouraged to take home. We would not have to go to the grocery store. We would not have to cook for several days because we had all this leftover food. And that definitely felt like it saved us money during that time. So if you ever get a chance to attend a Filipino party, be prepared to eat a lot, be prepared to be told to keep eating, and be prepared to take food home. Let me know in the comments below if this is something that you find odd, that is not normal in your culture. But if it is, let me know, and let me know what culture you're from. The next several frugal habits I'm going to share with you, I found them odd when I was a kid because I was too cool for school, but as an adult now, they totally make sense to me. So the next frugal habit I grew up with was hanging clothes on clothes liners. I didn't always grow up with a dryer, and even when we did have a dryer, we still hung our clothes outside. Whether it's summer, spring, or even in the winter, we still hung our clothes outside. It definitely helped us save on our electricity bill, but growing up as a kid, I always thought it was a little odd because I knew a lot of people didn't do that, especially when we moved to America. Everybody seemed to have a dryer, and so I just found it odd that we still hung clothes even when we finally moved to a house with a dryer. But even now as an adult, I do hang my clothes out to dry when the weather is nice. And even though I have the luxury of using a dryer, I think it's been good to once in a while hang clothes outside, knowing that I could save electricity. The next frugal habit that I grew up with that I wish I could do now, especially in these times. As long as I can remember, every house that I've lived in, we always raised our own chickens so we can have our own eggs. It doesn't matter whether it was our house in the Philippines or when we moved to Hawaii and then moved to California. My dad always built a chicken coop and he always raised chickens. When I was a kid, I thought that was very odd because none of my friends did that. I thought I was too cool to be raising chickens. But now that I'm an adult and we're having this shortage of eggs right now, I wish I lived somewhere where I could raise my own chickens and be able to have my own eggs. Now looking back, that is definitely something I can appreciate that I grew up with. It definitely saved us money, knowing that egg prices can go up and down. And that is something I actually strive to do in the future, is to be able to live somewhere where I can raise my own chickens and have my own eggs. The next frugal habit I grew up with was just pickling everything. Now I know pickling is very common, but when I was a kid, I thought it was very strange because we pickled not only just vegetables, we pickled fruits, we pickled hard-boiled eggs, we even pickled chicken feet. And I remember as a kid looking into one of our cupboards and it looked like a shrine of like pickled stuff. And when you see things like chicken feet being pickled in there, definitely seems odd. But now that I'm an adult, I definitely saw that it totally made sense. It definitely saved us money because we always had food. We never let any food go to waste. And the great thing about pickling is that it extends the life of the food. So pickling is something that I would like to get more into in the future. I do make my own sauerkraut, pickled cucumbers and things like that, but pickling everything was definitely something I can appreciate now as an adult, but don't count on me pickling any chicken feet. And the other frugal habit I grew up with when it comes to food again is that we froze everything. The moment we came home from the grocery store, all the meats went into the freezer, and even leftovers we would put in Ziplocs into containers and we would put in the freezer. I used to think it was really odd doing that because I used to get annoyed by how long it took to thaw the food. But now as an adult, I can definitely appreciate that I grew up with freezing food because we always had this intention to preserve the food, not waste any food, save money, and most importantly, we always had food. Nowadays, I do freeze whatever makes sense for me to freeze. I make bread, I'll freeze half of it. I cut up potatoes for French fries that I freeze and I'll cook later. I also have a habit of freezing ripe bananas with the intention to make banana bread, even though it takes a while before I actually get there. But having grown up freezing food and doing it now, I can definitely see the benefits of it. I definitely like that I'm not wasting food. And I'm sure the more often I do it, I do save money. So these are the odd, frugal Filipino habits that I grew up with. Let me know in the comments below which of these habits you found to be pretty odd. And also I'd love to hear what kind of odd, frugal habits you may have grown up with. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.